Let's see if we can keep it under 2 hours today. Surely we can accomplish it.
Sure. Well, we're literally just gonna have to actually pay attention to the clock, because otherwise we're gonna be like, well, how long have we been going? Oh, an hour and 50.
I guess technically I could hit stop right now, and it would be mission accomplished.
Yeah. All right. Join us for the next episode, everybody. Thanks for stopping by.
So here at the Research Runs and Frustrated Jacobs YouTube channels, and on the Research Log podcast, not a podcast, whatever this is. We continue
audio drama. We're gonna start talking about YouTube drama on here and turn this into an audio drama.
Our continued quest to figure out what exactly this show is. I previously thought that it would make sense for me to discuss, like, because I previously said we might talk about movies or whatever. Like, we'll say, hey, we're gonna do an episode where we just, like, instead of doing a movie commentary track, we'll just do an episode where we talk about a movie, right? And hypothetically, I say what it's going to be ahead of time, so you guys have the opportunity to watch it. And in my head, I always thought I'd announce it at the end of an episode, or like on Twitter or something. And I was like, actually, it would make more sense to do it at the beginning, because then more people would hear about it and be able to know what the next episode is going to be about. So I would, on a normal, if otherwise, I would be able to announce that on the next episode we would talk about the Adventures of Tintin: Secret of the Unicorn, because we were gonna film that a few weeks ago, and it didn't happen. So
imagine that things didn't work out.
Who knows how it's so surprising when things happen with this channel this way. But the point is, we may at some point still do that. Mm-hmm. So honestly, you should just go read some Tintin books and watch Adventures of Tintin: Secret of the Unicorn anyway.
It's pretty good.
And have a good time. But I am bringing this up because I think I am at the beginning of episodes from here on out. If we're planning on the next episode being a specific discussion of a specific topic, I think I'm going to announce it at the beginning of the episode, so people have time to, if they care. Obviously, they don't have to care. Mm-hmm. If they care, they can go check out the movie or whatever. And in this instance, there will probably be a lot of people who don't care about the announcement that the next episode will be Aiden and I discussing the Harry Potter fanfiction, The Pure Blood Pretense, which is the first entry in the Harry Potter fanfiction series I discussed at some length during the Uncharted 2 playthrough. Also, I think I didn't tighten the mic enough. It was slipping a little bit.
Oh, no.
Hold on. There. That's better.
Perfect.
It's fine now. We're all fine here now. Thank you. How are you?
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So next episode, Aiden and I will be chatting about Murky Blue Matters / Violet Matters, the Roger Black Chronicles Harry Potter fanfiction series, which I've read up to its currently published point. Aiden finished reading the first book a little while ago. We did an episode talking about that. Frankly, that episode was already really long. I'm probably going to trim it down. I haven't edited it yet. We did record it just a couple days ago. I'm putting this out first. Probably number one, because it's going to be easier to edit. Yes. Number two, I'd like to get another normal episode out first.
Of course, whatever normal is.
Whatever normal is. But also, I was talking to Aiden about, like, there's no way we can do one episode for each book going forward from here, because they're just too long. Like, it would be impossible. Anyway,
I need one of y'all to do it like an audiobook reading, so that I can, because it would be the best joke, like in my friend group, for me to just have the knowledge of this fan fiction after not watching or reading any actual Harry Potter.
I did discover because remember, this fan fiction series has I was talking about on Uncharted 2. This fan fiction series has a pretty big fan base itself.
Yes.
Someone did try to record an audiobook for it a number of years ago. They quit only a couple of chapters into the first book. I discovered it by mistake a while ago. I will say, Joey, I was thinking about it, because you know me, I like doing character voices when I'm reading stuff, so I've kind of figured out character voices. As I'm rereading it, I figured out character voices. I discovered the first book is just in terms of its, like, because I talked about how the first book especially is really rough, because it was written a while ago. The author was kind of doing it for fun. It hadn't become a thing yet.
Yes.
The first book's kind of rough, and I was like, I don't think I would not want to listen to or record an audiobook for the first one. maybe I would make an audiobook for the fourth one if it wouldn't take me 3 years, because the book is so long.
That's the thing, is it's like, I want to do this, but it's like, reading this would be about as long as reading, like, just the regular series.
Yeah, I know. I was about to say, you should just listen. I've been telling you should just listen to the original books, because I think you'd like them. But then, yes, you reminded me you want to listen to the fanfiction first for the meme purposes.
Just
or just to mess with people.
So I can just be just in my friend group, so I can be talking and referring to somebody, and I say, yeah, and then she, and they're like, she?
Anyway. Anyway, but that's next episode, not right now. Moving on to today. Before we have some stuff we're going to chat about. I personally have been very, very busy recently, so I haven't played a lot of new video games. I don't know what you have and haven't been up to, Joey. There's one. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say I've mostly been out of town, but
We've both been out of town a good bit recently.
Yeah,
however, there's one thing that I was able to play several days worth of. I can't at this exact moment in time because the servers are down. Joey, have you heard of Splitgate?
No, I have not.
Joey,
not at all.
Joey, do you like old Halo multiplayer?
Oh God.
Do you wish that you could play old Halo multiplayer
every day
again?
Every day.
Do you wish you could play it cross-platform on PC, PS4, PS5, and Xbox One and Xbox Series S? I'm pretty sure it's on PS5 and the new Xbox, whatever it's called. The freaking Apple lawsuit where they're like, do you mean the Xbox All-in-One Entertainment Suite or the new Xbox Series X? What are you talking about?
What are you talking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the Xbox. But anyway,
the thing they played the game on.
I'm gamer. I just want to play video games. But anyway, so Splitgate, Joey, is a video game. It's an arena shooter.
I'm Googling.
Do not Google it yet.
Do not Google.
Do not Google it yet.
Okay.
It's an arena shooter.
Okay.
It's been in some form of early access since like 2019. I hadn't heard of it until the last week. Maybe I saw footage of it years ago, but I don't think I would have forgotten about it.
Okay.
It's a Halo-like. It's got all of the Halo guns you expect. It's got it's got no create a class anything. You've got either like I think there is a gun game in it that I haven't played yet. There's also Fiesta where you just spawn with random weapons each time you respawn. But it's for the most part, it's either you're playing a match that's snipers and shotties where you have a sniper rifle and a shotgun, or you are playing a match where you start with the DMR and the assault rifle and you pick up other guns around the map. You got your 3-shot battle rifle. You got your Halo 3, Halo 2 SMG. You got rocket launcher. You got a thing that's a kind of a it's like a bat, but it kind of functions like a combination between the brute hammer and the sword.
Okay.
You even got a splazer in there. It's called a railgun, but it's the Spartan laser. There's even a plasma rifle that functions kind of like the elite weapon rules function with the cooldown time and whatnot. So this game is, and also it's free to play, Joey. What if I told you that it's free to play and it's quite good. I played a good bit of it. It feels good. It's high quality primo stuff. What if I told you it was developed by just 4 guys? And it's quite impressive.
This is you're presenting me with a lot of information that usually doesn't mesh together.
Now, what if I told you that every single player character has a portal gun?
Excuse me?
So the gimmick of Splitgate is that every single player character, regardless of what gun they're carrying, has a wrist-mounted portal gun, which is activated depending on your key bindings. On like PlayStation and Xbox, it's left and right bumper, right? For your for your orange and blue portal or whatever, right? Okay. So every map there's very easy callouts. It's not like Portal where you kind of have to get used to like what's portalable surface and what isn't. You have very clear and bright blue portal surfaces around the map, and it just works like Portal, the video game Portal that Valve won't make anymore. And
2 was good, and they just never did anything else with it.
And you're fighting a guy who's over there, and you're behind some cover, and you're popping out and shooting him, having a normal gunfight. And you decide, I'm done having the normal gunfight now. So you shoot the tiny visible blue sliver of wall behind him. You duck behind your cover and shoot another portal wall, and then you just shoot the guy in the back of the head.
So Splitgate, is that what you said?
Splitgate, yes.
I might have to partake of this.
Oh, the only reason I did not tell you about it was because I wanted to hear your reaction to it on the show.
It's a shame because we already started playing another multiplayer game. We started playing Minecraft again. Like yesterday. But it's like, now I'm like,
it's good to have stuff in your rotation. Good to have options. It's only 4v4s, so it's kind of limited. Yeah, it's only teams of 4 as far as I know. So it's maybe teams of 5. I'm pretty sure it's just teams of 4 though. So somewhat limited amount of people you can hang out and play it with. But it's so the way that the portals work in the game is you can pass through any portal. Enemy portals are designated by red always. I'm pretty sure that even though it's red versus blue, you are always blue team. You always perceive the enemy to be red team and yourself to be blue team.
These days. I know they do that in Overwatch.
Mm-hmm. So you put down your own portals, right? Which are, I believe, like orange and blue, kind of similar. They're no. One of them is purple, I think.
Okay.
It's not quite Valve. It's not quite copyright infringement levels of portal. Similarly, when you are looking through a portal when you haven't passed through it yet, there's kind of like it's almost like, like a heat waves.
Yeah.
It's a little bit blurry, so you don't have a completely clear picture, and that's only when you're looking through your own. When you're looking through either a teammate's portal or an enemy's portal, there's just a black void and you can't see anything.
Oh, really?
But you can shoot through it. And your reticle still turns red if it's generally hovering over an enemy. So if you see an enemy red portal, you can try and shoot through it and see what happens. Or you can chase an enemy through it if they run away, right?
Yeah.
Now you can also close your portals, because you have a deactivate button for your left and right portals.
Okay.
So you can place one down to make a quick getaway and then close it so people can't follow you.
Okay, cool.
Also, no grenades.
Okay.
Except for an EMP grenade, which does nothing to enemies. It just closes enemy portals.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. There's really not much else to it beyond that because it is just really solid classic multiplayer arena shooter stuff. With some pretty decent map design, and it's got your expected like full-blown portal physics systems.
Okay.
So there are a lot of maps with bottomless pits on them, right?
Yeah.
But usually there's one platform dead in the middle of the bottomless pit that has a portal surface on it that you can use to get yourself back out if you can react quickly enough, or you can plan to use that specifically to build momentum to launch yourself to the top of the map or across the map to get into the enemy spawn or whatever, right?
Right.
It is fairly hectic, but if this sounds at all interesting to you, I recommend getting into it right now, because right now, most people are bad at it.
Okay, good. That's what I like to hear. So the big problem, because we've been playing Modern Warfare, and one of my friends, he's not really an FPS guy, but he's been playing with us. He's never really played Call of Duty, and he's been struggling a lot in that game because, of course, it's like, if you're not familiar with an FPS, you're going to struggle anyway, but then it's like you also run into the problem of there's like 100 people playing that game, and all the people that are playing it are max prestige, been playing since been playing this game since it was released 3 console generations ago.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's always nice to know that it's like, okay, there'll be people equally as bad as me that we can train off of.
Also the other thing about it is that it is a solid enough shooter that you can play it and kind of ignore the portal mechanics yourself. I've done matches where I've barely ever put down portals. You just have to have the situational awareness to know when other people are portaling, at least at that point, even if you don't use it that much yourself, because it does function as just it's not just a gimmick. Like, it is a solid, good ass like Halo replacement. The only thing that will trigger the Halo fanboys is there is a sprint, because I know that makes the Halo fans, that makes their heads just spin right off.
Stopped being good at Reach because they had the audacity to let the super soldiers move fast outside of cutscenes. I cannot believe they ruined Halo.
Also, very much Halo is that most of the weapons do not have an ADS, only if they're scoped.
Okay.
The assault rifle has a scope on it. So you can ADS with the assault rifle, which may rub some people the wrong way, but like
it doesn't have to just be Halo.
Yeah, no, true. But
Exactly.
I'm just saying because I'm pitching it because I know a lot of people are looking for that Halo replacement in many ways.
Yes.
And it's very interesting that they're finally going full release around the same time that Infinite is doing their our multiplayer is going to be free to play, right? Because there will be essentially 2 Halos on the market, one that's very much trying to feel like 3. And one that's whatever 343 is going to do.
Yeah.
Where instead of having clear red versus blue teams, everybody still has their cosmetic skins, and they just have a really ugly ass red and blue outline. Have you seen this?
Oh no.
They showed footage of it because it's like, hey, you want to wear your like bright gold skin that you rolled for in a loot box? We want you to be able to show that off. So when you're running around, you're just going to have a really ugly red outline around you. That just looks it looks like how characters looked in the 3DS version of Smash Brothers.
Ooh, okay.
Like, that's the level both of like just like ugly design and like, but not even ugly design, of like resolution level, because the outline doesn't look good. It's like badly aliasing into the player model. It's terrible.
That's not great, but also I'm not going to sit here and claim that I know the solution to it, because it's like, why? Yeah, having clear red and blue teams was, it was a clear indicator. I remember having, especially in Reach, where they introduced a ton of customization options. I remember it feeling like a waste a lot of times, because it's like, okay, cool, and I spent time making my character look like this. It's like, but I don't, unless we play free for all, nobody's gonna see the color.
Well, the trade off is you have like your trim. You can hopefully get your trim to stay, or even really what they should do is they should allow some kind of a level of like gradient selection, kind of similar to how in the red versus blue show, red team runs the gambit from like kind of yellow essentially to like a deep crimson or deep maroon, and also pink. And then blue team has kind of more cyan to the darker blue.
You know what? That's a solution actually. Just have your custom character have two versions of it. Have your red team and your blue team.
Yeah, and then you're neutral.
And then you're neutral. Mm-hmm. So yeah, okay, there you go.
And you get a gradient to select from for each like of your team kit.
Yeah, exactly.
And your trim can probably still do whatever color you want as long as your primary color is. Mm-hmm. There's a way to fix it. Yeah. Also, you could make your loot boxes more around like interesting armor designs than colors, but whatever.
Yeah.
That's all loot boxes somehow.
Yeah, it wasn't loot boxes in Reach, but it was the same thing where it's like it wasn't a big complaint back in the day, because it was like, well, most of the stuff that I care about is still coming over, but it still was like, okay, but nobody's ever going to see the colors I've chosen for my suit.
Yeah. But anyway, so Splitgate, for whatever, I think it's probably because it came out on consoles in the last 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. If you go and look, because some of the footage that I looked up of it when Joshua said go look this up, I discovered was clearly footage from several years ago. Like the map that I looked at I don't think even exists in the current version of the game. The game only went multi-console, only came to consoles like 2 weeks ago, I think, okay. And the launch was supposed to be a couple of days ago, and then they got 1 million downloads in like the course of a week and a half.
Okay.
And then this 4-man development team was very flattered, but it delayed the 1.0 launch a little bit when they realized, oh, our servers have a max capacity of 65,000 players.
I see.
So it was very difficult to get in for a couple of days. I did get into it and play a decent amount of it. It's quite good. Okay. But it became like they basically took the servers just down for a couple of days. They got, I think, some venture capital group like is giving them, just threw a ton of money at them, investing it in the game. They're trying to hire more people and expand the servers, which they've done a little bit of. The game went back up for went back up on the day it was supposed to launch with like the 1.0 patch, basically, of like they added in the new maps, they added in other like quality of life improvements they were going to make, FOV sliders for console, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But they said it's not 1.0 yet. It's still beta. You can still complete your beta battle pass and get your beta, stuff if you haven't yet. We're going to leave it in beta until August while we get this stuff fixed. But unfortunately, when they went back up, even if they'd fixed the servers, they could not get proper matchmaking to work. So it was just custom matches, which was like, I guess more people could get in, but even then they were still queuing it to let people in slowly. Then they decided we're going to take this down until today's Thursday. They're taking it down until Friday as of yesterday. Just to say we need to get matchmaking fixed and get everything else fixed and fix these bugs, because we're not right now. Everybody's trying to get in, and it's not the optimal experience we want to present, and we need time to fix this. This has led to some of the funniest Twitter replies I've ever seen from the most ornery degenerates I've ever seen, who are furious
that they can't play their video game.
You got the money. Why haven't you fixed it yet?
Oh boy. Let's see it happen.
Let me see if I can find some of it here.
Now, one question I have, and it's like, this is kind of minor, but I like to know that anytime a game is crossplay, it's like, is it default cross? Like, can you opt out of the crossplay?
You can opt out of crossplay.
Okay. Because I like to know that, just because it's good to have that option, because I know it's like Battlefield, the new one, is going to have crossplay, and it's like, cool, now I'm going to be able to play with my PC friends. But of course the problem with that is, I'm a console player.
And you're going up against some keyboard warriors, and sometimes you're going to get your ass kicked in a shooter, because mouse and keyboard is
vastly
usually superior. Yeah.
Especially,
so I watched like 5 seconds worth of like they did as part of a promotional thing, like they did like a tournament. And it was clearly guys who've been playing it on PC for the last 2 years, who are just insane.
Oh, yeah.
But I will say, playing it on console on a gamepad, I I'm also just pretty good at FPS's games, but I generally was doing quite well even in games where I was matched up against PC guys.
Okay.
You can tell who's who because in the when you're seeing them in the lobby, if they're on your console or PC, it'll show like their Steam icon or their Xbox icon or their PlayStation icon. If they're not on your system, it'll show a mouse or a PlayStation controller or an Xbox controller.
Okay, cool.
Depending on what platform you're currently viewing from. So you can tell who you're up against. And I will say, a lot of the new players who are flooding in are specifically coming from console. So even when I'm playing cross-plat, I'm usually only winding up with a couple keyboard warriors anyway.
Gotcha.
Yeah, 10 million in funding to expand our dev team and increase server capacity, which is very cool for them. And because I mean, this took off really fast, but like I don't see this being a flash in the pan thing. Like this is really a high quality game. Honestly, I hope that it does well for a while. But anyway, so servers went back up, and let's have a look at some replies of things that happened. Putting finishing touches on the server before we let everyone in. The builds have all been approved, so you can download the update before servers are live. Because like basically they made the patch available, but they have to wait for like PlayStation, Xbox, and Steam all to individually like green light everything, right? So let's see some replies.
When you find the people that reply, they be sure.
Dude, it's like past the afternoon. I don't know how loyal you think some are, but this isn't a way to start a fan base. Because they said they would get it up during the afternoon. They're literally waiting for approval from the consoles to get... From PlayStation, probably, because PlayStation usually the bottleneck on these things. Oh, come on. Where are some really good ones? I gotta find some really good ones in here. There were some great ones in here. Hurry up, please. It keeps loading, someone says, in a reply to a tweet that says, the queue's not working right now.
Perfect.
There are some people in here defending them. Don't tweet unless you say the servers are up. I left my Apex game for nothing. he saw the Splitgate team had tweeted, so he quit Apex. But then he read the tweet, and it wasn't that the servers were up.
My man, you can check the tweets without switching off. It's not hard, dude, at all. That's what your cell phone is there for. You have phones, right?
So you're telling me that it's a coincidence that people who can make the most money off of this game, streamers, are getting let into the queue first? Yes, they've isolated the usernames of all of the Twitch streamers and they let them in.
Of course. It's a conspiracy.
Absolutely.
We gotta get Alex Jones on this.
I'm being persecuted.
You said there are 4 people. There are 4 devs.
Currently, but they got $10 million, so that means they fixed they've already hired people, right? Because there's no interview process or trying to find the right person. They just, when you get $10 million, it solves the issue instantaneously.
Throw money at the problem and it goes away, right? I mean, that's kind of true to an extent.
Continuously working to improve the maximum player count. Sorry for people who are currently stuck. See, okay, now some of the, a lot of the bad ones have been buried, I guess, over the last couple of days because they got ratioed into oblivion, so I'm having a harder time finding the really good ones. We don't care, bro. Just open the damn servers.
I don't care if the servers
Bro, I know it's
work.
just 4 people, but it's been a week and it's still not available.
This massive cross-platform experience.
We're taking the servers offline. We're really sorry for the short notice and long waits. We're letting you know so that as soon as we can. But we need to fix critical bugs and improve stability and capacity. We'll keep you posted on our progress. You can't keep doing this, Splitgate. Servers are always overloaded for the past few days. I've seen no progress to help resolve this issue.
They can't keep getting away with this. I mean, you're gonna get that with anything.
We've decided to keep the servers off. This is totally normal. It's just very amusing to me that there are these people.
But it's you hate to see it.
It's so good. I mean, there are plenty of people in here being very nice and saying we appreciate the communication. Thank you very much. A lot of the really bad stuff that I had saved, I didn't save that I wish I'd saved because they've been ratioed into oblivion and disappeared. But there was some really really funny stuff.
Sometimes bullying is okay.
I love the I left my Apex game. Don't tweet unless the servers are up, though. That one's one of my favorites that I saw.
That's good. That's almost formulaic of, just eye-rolling.
Yeah.
Like, it's too perfect.
Anyway, almost like David Cage. Not David Cage, the other guy from Quantic Dream asking if he can lie on the stand.
I'm not under oath.
Not under oath, so I'm allowed to lie, right? Yes, but saying so may damage the credibility of your testimony, my guy. Anyway... so yeah, that's I wanted to talk about Splitgate right up front. Expect hopefully as soon as the servers get back up and I can get some footage, I'd like to do a brief video about it in general, and expect to see some streams in the future because it is quite fun.
Yeah,
it's a good ass game.
I'm interested.
It's a good ass game.
I am interested.
Being it's clear they put a lot of time and effort into the thought on these maps and like the placement of portalable surfaces, so that, like, it's difficult to just instantaneously warp wherever you want. But like there are points where you will have to be able to think ahead of, like, I am at this point and there's a portal surface behind me, and the vantage point they'll have will be like this angle. I'm going to neutralize this surface by putting one portal on it, not placing another one so it doesn't go anywhere, but just
preventing other people
from getting behind me instantaneously, right? It's quite good stuff. I've had a good time with it so far. You know, a game that I haven't had a good time with, and no one has had a good time with, including the people making it, Skull and Bones.
Ooh. So it's what's so funny about this specifically is literally a week or two before, you know, not saying before all this came out, because I'm sure it was around, but it's before people started, you know, making articles about it and whatnot. Literally, my friend Jake and I were talking. He said, "Man, what happened to that Ubisoft like pirate boat game they announced all those years ago?" And I was like, "I don't know. I guess it's just dead."
And like that was developed. I'm pretty sure that started development almost immediately after Black Flag. That was like 8 or 9 years ago.
Eight's the number I keep seeing thrown around.
So for people who don't know, Skull and Bones, the pseudo Assassin's Creed spin-off focusing on pirate adventures, which hasn't appeared at E3 for I think 2 years now. Longer. I think the last time it showed gameplay was in 2018. It's been in development hell for a very long time for a whole lot of reasons. We don't need to get into all of the issues because there are all kinds of problems. But one of the big issues is that Ubisoft set up a studio in Singapore, and it was underwritten by the government of Singapore of like, bring this here, generate jobs, and create this game, right?
Yeah, and it's like, we'll give you like a full floor on. It was in a government building too, wasn't it?
I think so.
One of the technologies buildings. Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, you know, we'll get it to you for dirt cheap. And you get this entire floor. And
but we want the studio to be the core aspect of some major game that's getting put out.
We also want you to hire a bunch of locals and some local talent working on this.
Yes.
Make a name for Singapore in the games industry.
Yes. Which led to a bunch of Frenchies blowing through the Singapore office. And from the, we're not even Frenchies, I shouldn't say that specifically, but higher up, other people from Ubisoft blowing through as like a rotating management team who really didn't give a crap and weren't committed to actually working with the team there or taking them seriously, among a lot of other problems, which led to constant conflicts of interest on what was actually happening with the game and changing direction. But they are contractually obligated to ship Skull and Bones because it is the flagship title of Ubisoft Singapore, which is underwritten by the government. They aren't contractually obligated with shareholders or some of it. No, they are contractually obligated to Singapore to ship Skull and Bones.
It's like it was funny the first time, but it's funnier every time I read that statement.
There was a specific quote in one of these articles from a former Ubisoft employee who basically said if this was any other game at any other studio, it would have been canceled 10 times over by now.
But it can't. They legally cannot cancel this game.
Budget is currently over $120 million.
Yeah, I'm glad you've got the stuff pulled up. I was trying to look for the little like bullet point, but I knew it was over $120 million.
It is, which honestly, that makes me not want to buy it because I don't want to contribute to it possibly. It will never make its money back. It's impossible.
It can't.
But
it cannot. It can. But
I want the hole to be as big, as vast as possible.
Like I want it. I want to see it fail so bad, just because I want to see how bad in the hole they're going to be.
This is the type of stuff.
It could be record breaking at this point.
Yeah, this could be maybe the biggest flop in the history of the video game industry. Mm-hmm. But like, I don't know in terms of like raw like budget.
Yes.
But because that's insane. I mean, there's a lot of games that cost a lot of money, but it's not going to make that kind of money back. It's just not going to happen. But
I mean, we don't even know if they even have a clear vision for it now, because the problem is they kept
changing what they were doing with it.
Yeah, and they kept scrapping stuff and making new stuff because there wasn't a clear vision as to what they were supposed to be doing.
Which really communicates a big problem with the games industry in general, and the fact that this kind of the fact that this kind of stuff keeps happening because like, oh, we'll ship a product, doesn't matter, we don't need clear vision right now, who cares? I've been reading Jason Schreier's more recent book, Blood, Sweat, and Pixels. I say been reading, I haven't touched it in several weeks, but it's basically a bunch of info about like inside the development of a bunch of different games of like primarily studios that wound up getting shut down because of game that's being focused on, right?
Yes.
First chapter's on Warren Spector, and it's mostly just about his entire career of like going through working on the Ultima games, going to making Deus Ex, but it zeroes in primarily on Junction Point Studios and at the Epic Mickey games,
yes,
and what happened there. But one of the, I think it's honestly it's pretty quick. It's like the second or third chapter about BioShock Infinite, and Ken Levine had no plan. He kept, the only thing they got relatively early on was City in the Clouds, and after that, everything just constantly kept changing.
Well, I mean, it's like Anthem.
Yeah.
Where it's like just nothing. They were just like, we're just whatever. We'll figure it out. The BioWare magic.
And they had a plan with, I think it was like 15 months left to ship the game. I think was when a new producer came in and said, I'm fixing this. And then they knew, okay, it's going to be a loot shooter. We're going to try and take on Destiny. And they had slightly over a year to ship. What a fantastic industry that I desperately want to be a part of. It's at times like this that I need a ray of sunshine and hope, and Yoshi-P descends from the heavens to shut down a Square Enix PR shill who's trying to set him up to say we are the best in the industry, and he shuts him down and says if we thought like that we would not be where we are.
If we fought like that, we'd be Blizzard.
Yeah. Well, Blizzard has a lot of other problems on their hands right now.
Yeah. Blizzard prior to the last month or two.
You want to talk briefly about Blizzard before we talk about Final Fantasy related stuff? Because there's 14 and 16 news it's worth briefly discussing. What is there to say about Blizzard really other than the Cosby Suite?
I was going to say, where to even begin? It's like, there's just... like I was telling you earlier, it's like it's been a few days of every day I get on social media and I see an outlandish headline. I'm like, that's fake, right?
I love how
there's no such thing as the Cosby Suite, right?
When the suit was filed, right?
Yes.
It didn't surprise me at all because stories like that have been trickling out for years.
Of course.
Right? Little bits
of pieces. You get that a lot of times. I mean, it's the same thing like with Riot as well.
And there was kind of writing on the wall anyway because like Kaplan from Overwatch and a bunch of other people have jumped ship from Blizzard in the last couple of years, and it's like, okay, did they jump because they were caught up in it, or did they jump because they were like, this is about to blow up and it is so institutional that there's no point in being here because it can't be fixed. I gotta get out of here. But like when the suit was announced and I was reading through it, it's like, okay, so like the Blizzard response was like, a lot of this is being exaggerated or even straight up made up was their initial response, right? And then a few paragraphs later, they said, besides, it's a lot better these days anyway. Which is like, this is going to come up in discovery in the court case. Like, how do you... Who wrote that copy and made that mistake of like basically saying these are exaggerations and bold-faced lies. Besides, it hasn't been like this for a long time anyway.
Yeah, we're changed now. We're better now. Don't worry about it.
But like so, like they were saying, like this is just
every frat boy's got to grow up one day, right?
These are bloodthirsty California lawyers who are contributing to driving businesses out of California and everything being... Because, hey, listen, you know what? To be fair, things are kind of a mess in California right now. You know, maybe they haven't been thoroughly researched. Maybe they are making stuff up. You know, who knows? Maybe there is some crying wolf element to this. I think to myself, extremely skeptically, but who knows? Maybe there's one or two items in this suit. It doesn't change the story, but maybe there's one or two items. And then the stories keep coming out. Well, no, I'm just saying. I'm saying like I'm saying I don't believe this at all. Like I'm saying instantaneously, I'm sure all of this is real. I'm sure every bit of this is real.
Yes.
But if there's any kernel of doubt in your mind of maybe some of this is exaggerated, and then you get like some former guy, I forget, one of the co-founders who left a number of years ago, basically put out a statement that was like, "I'm appalled to hear about all this. This was not the type of environment that I wanted to create at Blizzard. I'm ashamed that I didn't know about this and I was unable to stop it. Women of Blizzard, I hear you, I believe you, I'm on your side. I'm not here to mitigate your story. I'm only here to apologize that I failed you colossally or whatever. It's like, now, first of all, this guy's covering his own ass.
Yes.
Blatantly. But he's also basically saying, yeah, sure, it happened.
Yep.
That was like 2 days after.
Yep.
This guy basically said, I completely believe all of this and that it absolutely happened. And then, like, Bobby Kotick, after their stock plummeted, pivoted to, our initial responses were not very good. We are going to deal with this, and the appropriate people will be dealt with and punished, and we will cooperate with the investigation.
I'm just gonna keep writing words down on this to try to shut people up.
And then the stories continued, including but not limited to the Cosby Suite, which I wish I could read the transcript of the text messages that were exchanged. They came out. Did you read these?
Yeah.
The whole, like, you can't marry all of them.
Yeah, and it's like, once again, that added to this is fake. This isn't real.
This must be fake.
This is mustache twirling levels of
there are still
evil.
public. There are people who are posting things that are still public about the Cosby Suite. They were just on somebody's Twitter account from 2013 that people didn't notice. For those who don't know, there was at BlizzCon 2013, some of the male staffers organized a room at the hotel, which they referred to as the Cosby Suite or the Cos. This was shortly after the allegations started coming out, because I believe they got started in like early 2013, late 2012. Mm-hmm. So it was like the joke was there was recent posts done of like, oh, it was making fun of the carpet pattern on the room, which looked similar to a Cosby sweater, and it reminded us of a tacky carpet that was in a boardroom back at Blizzard headquarters. So that was why we called it the Cosby Room. And it was
that's why we had a framed photo of Bill Cosby. That
it was just like a green room, and that was why we had just mountains and mountains of booze, and we're exchanging text messages about bringing the hot chicks up to the cause.
You can't marry them all, and then he said you misspelled F them all.
Well, no, first the guy said, yes, I can, I'm Middle Eastern.
Yeah, he did.
Then another guy responded, you misspelled F them all.
Oh, God. And it's like, once that comes out, then it's like, okay, so
all bets are off.
Oh, exactly. It's like, Christ.
And there was, I don't know how much of the like that, because I didn't read the whole thing, obviously, but I read a lot of highlights people were posting. There was a story about a woman who committed suicide on a company retreat, actually.
Yep.
And obviously alleged in response to sexual harassment and poor treatment at the workplace.
Right.
Which, like, God, this is terrible, and obviously this is not an isolated thing. This is an epidemic in the games industry from everything people talk about. It's a huge problem, and I'm glad that Blizzard is going to get their ass kicked on this.
Oh, and it's happening because they're not doing anything to stop it right now. Because like I said earlier, the article I read today it's like, oh yeah, the firm that they hired is notorious for union busting. It's like, you're not doing literally anything to help your case right now, like if PR-wise.
The only
it's only getting worse.
I can't even say this with a straight face and say that it's positive, but the only positive quotation mark story I've seen come out is that when all of their workers did a walkout, they said it's paid vacation. We'll still pay them for that day, and no one will get in trouble for it. I don't count that as a plus in their side, on their side,
it's
though.
Not enough.
It's great, though, because they're not releasing any good products anyway, so who cares? I will say, we've been talking about, especially since playthroughs are slowing down, I was thinking about streaming more, and with this all coming out, I was like, I'm not going to stream Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare like I was planning on a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm not going to stream any Activision anything for a little while, even though that game came out forever ago, and it's not really a big deal, and I'm not spending any money on loot boxes. I mean, I'm still not going to do it.
That's part of why we started playing Minecraft again, because we've been... every now and then it's just a joke of, hey guys, let's download Minecraft, haha, whatever. And it's like the two games that we were all playing a lot of right now was Diablo 3 and Call of Duty 4. And it's like,
maybe not anymore.
How about we start a new Minecraft server, boys? And everybody's like, yep, let's hop right on.
That's part of why I'm very happy about Splitgate happening, because because I only reinstalled Call of Duty 4 a couple weeks ago, and I mean, I installed it a couple weeks ago, but I've been out of town for like a week and a half of that, so I've really only played a bit of it. I really love that game. I was having quite a bit of fun with it, and maybe I'll still play it a little bit in my free time, but I'm not going to stream it for a while. I'm glad that Splitgate exists, and I can go play that instead. Maybe I'll reinstall Titanfall instead, and uninstall the COD monster. Dude, I can't wait for them to announce the new one. It'd be so good. I wonder what it's going to be about this time.
You know, actually, I'm afraid now. I bet somebody brought up the other day, because I keep talking about Modern Warfare 2 wanting that. And it's like, with all the crap going on, it's like, oh, might be the time they've got
that Modern Warfare 2 remastered multiplayer suite waiting for a PR disaster or a sales slump.
Yes, exactly.
What if they put it out right now?
Exactly. Which, if they put it out right now,
it wouldn't matter anyway.
Doesn't matter. I'm not gonna get it.
But so I was starting to talk about FF14 a minute ago, and then I got pivoted over to this, because there's the whole, even before this started happening, the mass WoW exodus was occurring.
Yes.
So much so that Square temporarily had to stop selling digital codes for 14
because they
had to create a queue.
Space. Yeah, that's
Thank God at FanFest they were talking about all the new servers they were getting anyway, and the new server farms in. Did they do one for Oceania or not? Did they do one on Australia?
I think they did.
Yeah, it's like, thank God they implemented all that stuff.
Yes.
They were somewhat ready, because they were doing that thinking, we're getting ready we're both servicing the fan base we already have, and we're probably gonna draw in more people with Endwalker, and little did they know.
Because that's the thing, is it's like, the thing to talk about Blizzard right now, obviously, is all of this stuff outside of their video games, but also it's like, even in their video games, they've been gutterballing it for a while now, because it's like, of course.
What, Joey? Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
What is Overwatch 2?
They keep, every single time something about Overwatch 2 comes out, it's blatantly different information. Because when it first came out, they were like, this is its own game, period. And then they said, no, this is actually, it's going to be compatible with Overwatch 1. It's just going to be like Overwatch 1, but with more content. And then they went back and was like, but no, it's its own thing. It's got story mode, and it's going to have its own exclusive multiplayer. It's like, what are you talking about? No wonder Mr. Kaplan's gone. But it's like, even without that, it's like, every game that they've been releasing, it's like, WoW, of course, has been on decline for years now, but it's like, what was the last thing that they actually released? Was it Warcraft? The awful, god-awful...
The remake, Warcraft 3 Reforged.
That screwed tons of aspects of it up. It's like, has there been something else?
They just lied, because they advertised it one way, and then the budget got slashed, and they just couldn't do that. And then they forcibly deleted the classic version from your library.
Yeah. It's like, was that the last thing they released?
I'm pretty sure that was their last major retail release.
It's like, God, and it's like, with Diablo 2 remake coming out, it's like, at this point, I'm just like, I just look forward to it releasing and then reading articles about how bad they screwed it up.
Oh yeah, for sure, because they'll find a way.
Yeah, it's like, it's every aspect of this company is on decline right now. It's kind of impressive.
It's holistically bad. It's holistically bad. It's fantastic.
There's not a redeemable aspect at this point. It's like, everything is just, the ship is just on fire, and they're just ignoring it. It's just sailing on fire, crumbling.
What's this major WoW player who's like the one who was the kind of pseudo leading the charge over to FF14, Asm Gold or something?
Yeah.
The guy who was talking about how cringe FF14 is because there's cat ears. But he's like, I guess I'm gonna go anyway because it's good for my numbers. And I don't care about him. And the handful of times I've looked at his videos, I've been like, I don't think I particularly care for this man as a content creator. I would love if a year from now he's like crying about plot details in 14 on stream or something, and there's cat girls on stream, and he's just like past it.
That'd be funny.
It would be I think quite amusing. But anyway. So yeah, there was some info about FF14 recently that was not super duper interesting. I mean, not super duper important for us to discuss or talk about.
Yeah.
But as they're doing when they talk about FF14 these days, they're sometimes burying a little bit of 16 in there as well. Just a little bit. Just a little taste. Just a little FF16 is a treat. But I briefly mentioned that there was an interview where basically someone was trying to get Yoshi-P to talk shit about WoW.
Yeah.
Which when he went in to do A Realm Reborn, he made the dev team play, I think it was Cataclysm that was out at the time. He made everybody on the team just play a shit ton of WoW because none of them understood how MMOs worked anymore.
Like, no, go play the premier one. Go play the one, because I mean, obviously it was a juggernaut at one time. Everybody knows that, but it's like, it was the best, biggest premier MMO at one time, and then I have a few friends that are like diehard. Well, they're not diehard.
still in there.
I would say Die Hard, but not blind. Like, I have a friend who just about.
It was hard, but they are dying.
Yeah, but about like all this stuff specifically, I think the phrase "man, this sucks" has been said by him so many times because he's like, I liked this game and I liked this company and I liked the games they put out. It's like, but I can't do this anymore.
But, like, I mean, honestly, I'm pretty sure Cataclysm was the last one that was, like, generally well-received anyway.
I think so.
Mists of Pandaria or whatever was the one after that, and that was, like, I think considered to be fine. And then after that, there's been nothing on that front that people have been happy with, pretty much. But anyway, this guy was basically trying to bait Yoshi-P into saying, "WoW sucks, we're the best." He literally says, "I was hoping you would say that we were the best afterwards."
Yeah.
Because Yoshi-P was just talking very realistically about the scenario, and like we have to look around at our competitors and understand them. And if we went in with the attitude of we are the best, then we wouldn't be where we are right now. What he didn't say was that's why 14 failed in the first place, was because people went in developing it went in with the mindset of we are the best.
Yes.
Because he said that plenty of times before. And he was on a Square Enix hosted stream, and he probably didn't need or want to say that just then.
No, and I'm willing to bet that the upper management mentality at Blizzard has been, what do you mean? Our numbers are in decline, just whatever. Like
it'll be better when we release not Shadowbringers. They have a thing that's very similar in theme to FF14.
They basically copied like one of the trailers, I remember.
Yeah, it's like that. They're like, it's fine. Our numbers will go back up when that formally releases, or like the next patch or whatever. And they're probably wrong.
Yeah, and of course, leaks you always have to take with a grain of salt. But I know that there was like some like WoW dev members that were like leaking just general like boardroom stuff, and just talking about the general like complete lack of knowledge and tone deafness of the higher ups of just it's like listen that we're being beat by one of them was mentioned they were trying to describe FF14 like why it's
why it's on the rise.
Like one of the higher ups was like, stop, I don't care, I don't want to hear about them, this isn't about them, this is about us. And it's like it was basically saying it's like that they're a nobody. Like,
and it's even better because like in that specific field, I hadn't heard this quote before. That's phenomenal. Or like your paraphrase of it at least. You're specifically in a field where it's not even about like direct competition because you're not selling a product, you are selling a service.
Yes.
Like more so than any in most other branches of the industry, your direct competition is extremely important to understand. That's phenomenal. I love that.
Yeah, and of course, if the leaks are to be believed, they're talking about like the actual, and this is with any game company, like the actual like people that don't even know what a game are hardly. Like those, but basically what they were saying is they were just like, listen, we need more budget to allocate if we want to compete at all. And then them just saying, what do you mean compete? It's like they're nobody. It's a flash in the pan. We're gonna reign supreme. To be completely at them a week later. To
be completely fair, you're saying people who don't know games. So like you're talking like shareholders or like El Presidente, like top level who do, sure, okay.
You know what I mean. Like they know about video games, but they don't really.
Sure.
You get this a lot in the Japanese industry, especially where it's like the people that are higher up just don't actually. They're crazy. They're dinosaurs that don't actually know anything.
Why the Sega of America kept telling us to implement rollback? Bitter smile.
Haha, but we didn't do it.
But we didn't do it though because we don't like those guys. Another book that I bought recently that I haven't read yet is called Console Wars, and it's about basically it's about how Sega like single-handedly overthrew Nintendo's monopoly through absolutely genius business decisions and marketing and really good stuff, and they just kicked ass for like 15 years, and then they completely ruined themselves.
And now we have Sega as it is nowadays.
Oh boy, Sega.
Sega.
I love that ad, that Sonic Adventure magazine spread that I showed you earlier that I retweeted a few weeks ago. It's like it reads like John Romero's about to make you his bitch. Like it literally, because it says Yuji Naka's Warp Speed 3D Adventure. Sonic has a new light speed dash. Too bad your lame-ass reflexes are still the same. Yuji Naka's Warp Speed 3D Adventure through 30 expansive worlds and bonus rounds and minigames, where 6 playable characters snowboard, pinball, fly, and even talk. Moving 360 degrees never felt so good.
Your reading of that sounded like the the House of the Dead or whatever, like for a second, like the really bad voice acting game.
I am people of the AMF. I am gold, man.
But there's one dude in there that specifically has the "krr" in his voice when he talks.
The God, oh no, what was the like that read like a bit from Arby and the Chief, which doesn't exist anymore because all of Machinima got blown up.
Sadly,
there was a bit in that where Chief is like, Arby, why do they call it the Xbox 360? Because you turn 360 degree to see it. And Arbiter's like, that would just mean you were already looking at it and you turned around. Because you turn 360 degree to see it.
We're gonna turn what? This doesn't matter at all. But I just remember a few years ago, like a basketball quote where one of the guys was like, "Yeah, we're planning on turning this team a whole 360 degrees around. We're gonna come back in the next round."
I love when people make that mistake. It's the best. It's the funniest. It's just the funniest. Oh boy. Dude, I gotta say, not really relevant, but just reading that magazine spread on Sonic Adventure, I really liked that freaking Sonic Adventure. I really had fun filming Sonic Adventure.
Sonic Adventure, it's fun. That's back when Sonic games were just fun.
Boy, freaking! It says 40 worlds. What did they count as a world on that? Because there's like maybe 15. There's less than 15 levels.
There absolutely is, but they
count every single room in the open world as a world.
They probably do that, or they probably just consider every location that a character goes to, and each character is separate. Where it's like if everybody goes.
But if it was multiplied by 6, then that would be way higher than 40.
Then I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's got to be they're counting each level. And
also
each mini... Go ahead.
I was going to say, also the levels were split into 2 parts.
Maybe they're counting each level as 2, and then every load zone of Station Square and Mystic Ruins is a world, quotation marks.
And of course you have like the snowboarding section.
And Twinkle Park, mini go-karts.
And the sandboarding
and the Chow Garden. And in each of the three Chow Gardens,
yeah.
That's probably how they get to 40.
Okay. Yep.
But I bet you it's literally that every load zone of Station Square and Mystic Ruins, they counted as an expansive world.
The fun thing about speculating about this is there's literally no way to ever have
There's
an
no
answer.
way to know for sure.
There's no, because never, like, that dude could have just, whoever wrote that.
He could have said 100 worlds. Nobody could have stopped him.
Exactly. I was going to say, it's like, he may have just picked 40. He may not have even played a game before. They were just like, listen, it's the 90s. We need 90s marketing for the kids. Call them a bitch. Oh, no, this is a Sonic game. Okay, we'll just tell them that they have slow-ass reflexes.
God, now I'm imagining Ball and Wonder World, Yuji Naka's about to make you his bitch.
Oh, no.
That was what they. It would have sold way better if they'd done that.
I need to see if the Ball and Wonder World speedrunning community exists, like, improper yet, because I feel like that's a game that could be either really fun or really
I guarantee it's, like, that they are already, like, sub 30, and that by a year from now, they will have found every single wall clip in the game, and they'll get it sub 5. Like, they'll do it. That game is so busted.
I know there's going to be, it's like this one suit is like integral to just clipping out of the map in every interval, or maybe they're even going to do things like with, old Zelda games or even Metroid where like number manipulation.
Yeah. I will. I don't know if you ever watched Donkey's video specifically on Balan and Wonderland's world, whatever it's called. I'm watching that and laughing at it, and then he pulls out a character who he's like, oh wow, they got Death Stranding in this game because he does like the extendable ladder that tilts over, and like I have 5 whole seconds where I'm like, oh, that's actually kind of a fun mechanic for a platforming game, and then instantly he shows that the ladder clips through like 90% of the walls in the game. So it doesn't do anything. Oh, Balan Wonderland.
It still makes me sad that, like, not even a month after that game's release, they had, like, Yuji Naka was gone.
They absolutely... I wish they had... I was just thinking, you were saying Yuji Naka's gone. I was going the same place of, like, if they had done the Yuji Naka's about to make you his bitch marketing campaign, they could have, like... You could have put that image next to the headline of Yuji Naka leaves Square Enix. And you rearrange the headlines to be Square Enix is about to make Yuji Naka their bitch. Oh, boy. Anyway.
That's a shame, because, like, we really just don't get straight platformers anymore.
It's true, we don't.
You have
because there hasn't been a Rayman game. Those were both really good, and the last one was like 2013 or some crap.
Yeah, it's like we have a Hat in Time, and like I can't really think of much else.
I was just saying to you earlier that the like lead artist for A Hat in Time, I forget her name. She announced a while ago she's now the lead like creative director at A Hat in Time, or one of the creative directors at A Hat in Time. Sorry, at Gears for Breakfast, which is the name of the development team, which means they're making a new product.
So
finally,
it could just be another big DLC, but fingers crossed it's a big product.
I'm sure they'll want to do a new game because you can already see in Yakuza Metro the big final DLC pack that they've already made so many improvements over what they were capable of in the base game that's like I'm sure they will just want to like be able to start from scratch and well, not from literal scratch, but like to be able to build something new and like be able to go around problems that they had.
I was gonna say, knowing all the information now that they have.
Yeah, and I'm fairly certain. Obviously, they have more money now than they did before, and they probably got a bigger team now. But they haven't announced because Yakuza Metro. I know they only got it on console a couple of months ago, but Yakuza Metro I want to say came out in like 2018, 2019. So it's been a while. I mean, I was sure they were working on something because the team still existed.
Yes.
But like, there's been no formal announcement of any kind, which is fine because I don't want to hear an announcement 7 years before something comes out. But
I was gonna say, hopefully they're taking the current FF16 approach. Of just we'll show stuff close to when it's ready.
Yeah, but I just don't want Gears for Breakfast to vanish because Hat in Time is like. I've said this before to you. It is honestly one of my favorite games of the last like 10 years. It's so good. But yeah, really, it and Celeste are the only really big, like, cool. I mean, obviously, like Odyssey exists, and I guess we'll count Bowser's Fury and 3D World.
Yeah.
But like outside of Mario and like I mean there are plenty of indie games that are platformers, but like
plenty.
But like ones that are like really interesting and like okay no this is a tentpole moment, not just like oh it's a fun platform, but like no this is a significant moment on the timeline of platforming games.
Yeah,
like and I honestly believe A Hat in Time belongs on like a timeline of platforming games personally.
Yeah, and that's why it's even more saddening because it's like in this era of nothing, it's like oh man, maybe something like Sonic Adventure again because we haven't had anything like Sonic Adventure. And then
I think I showed you.
I mean, Bowling was bad enough to be a Sonic game, but oh well.
I think I showed you a comment that someone left when we did the stream, the PlayStation conference stream where we went back and watched a little bit of the Sonic one.
Yep.
We talked about that briefly. And someone left a comment because we were talking about, what's the new Sonic game? All this speculation. Ooh. And hold on. My phone's loading it. It's coming to me. Come on. Ninja Bunny says, the new Sonic game is clearly the final game of the Sonic Storybook trilogy. I don't understand what everyone else is talking about.
Could you imagine?
It'd be so good, dude.
It'd be great.
You know what?
It'll be exclusive for the Switch, and you have to use it in handheld mode and use gyro controls.
It'll be exclusive to the Wii U digital shop. But no, like for real, I would honestly be interested if they did that because the main problem with Sonic, since really Heroes, is every time they've got like, okay, cool, you got an interesting design, keep doing this, change it, reinvent it. So whatever, they decide they're going to go do a follow-up to Secret of the Seven Rings and the Black Knight. You know what? Iterate. Maybe it'll be good. Remember when Generations was like, oh man, Generations and the Werehog bits, like other than the Werehog part, like those were good. And then they were like Lost World.
Lost World. And Boom. Although I guess Boom is its own little entity.
Yeah, Boom kind of doesn't count. And Boom should have been good, and then Sega ruined it. I don't know if you ever watched like Matt's What Happened on it or whatever. It is
virtually nothing about it.
The Big Red Button was so prepared to make a good video game, and then Sega ruined it.
Great. Bringing it all back to Sega, baby.
Anyway, so yeah, but you mentioned. Trickling news out like 16 is.
Yep.
So basically, Yoshida said in interviews recently, Naoki Yoshida, the director of Final Fantasy 16 and the director of Final Fantasy 14 and producer of Final Fantasy 16. I think people think of him as if he's directing this one because he's kind of the only public-facing figure on it, but he's not. He is producing it. There's another guy directing it. They really haven't done any interviews or anything other than they did that first trailer, and then he and the director, whose name I'm currently blanking on, both released a statement. And that's basically been it. not even at FanFest. I think it was at like Jump Fest or TGS. It was something like last year, like December or so. There was a panel about 14, and Yoko Taro was there. He was there in spirit, at least, because he got bored midway through the interview, and when the camera cut away from him, he took his Emil mask off, put it and his ascot in his chair, and walked up and stood off stage, but kept his mic on him. And he kept talking, but whenever it cut to him, it was just the head sitting in the chair. But anyway, most of the time, if people like try to slip in a sly, casual, hey, but let's actually talk about this, and it's like, oh, I don't know if we're allowed to talk about that, but I can share a little bit of information. You go, this is clearly scripted.
Yes.
But when Yoko Taro asks, you have to wonder, is he just going because he knows that he can do it?
Because it's Yoko Taro, the absolute madman, most chaotic figure in the gaming industry.
Yeah, but last back then when he got Yoshida to talk about it briefly, he basically said we didn't want to show anything until we had stuff that was running in engine. It was all functional. We didn't want to show a pre-rendered trailer. We knew that if we did that, we'd get comments, especially from overseas, of like, great, see you in 2033. So we wanted to wait until we really had something to show. The unspoken statement was Sony wanted a trailer to sell PS5s during their big PS5 conferences at the end, their big PS5 showcases at the end of last year. That was the unspoken statement. And then he said, don't expect to see anything until next year, though. And then we didn't see anything at E3, anything else during a number of different interviews that happened during lengthy 14 streams, some TV interviews and stuff. He said a number of different things that were interesting. One of them was, we didn't show it at E3 because we're not ready yet. Well, he didn't say we're not ready. Specifically, what he wound up saying was, this is very different for Square Enix. He basically said the company wants it to get shown. I've pushed back. He's not, I don't think he's literally an executive, but he's like on the board of directors of the Final Fantasy series, and he's currently printing money for them. So I think if he pushes back and makes a good enough argument, they listen to him at this point. He basically said, I don't want to show the game until we can show so much of it that people will say, I want to play it right now, and then we can say, here you go. Inferring, he didn't say a date, but inferring like he wants to show it off like a month or two before release, probably.
Which would be incredible if that's how it ends up happening.
Yeah, I mean, the last time that really happened with a major game was Fallout 4. Which was like 5 months ahead. It was like 4 months ahead even, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was really close.
It was a lot closer than you would expect.
And I'm willing to bet like people got way more excited for that game because of that. Because the stamina wasn't necessary to maintain the excitement.
It had been so long since like New Vegas, and like it just. And there had been plenty of that was another thing is that there had been, because I was in it because I was a stupid kid who liked Fallout at once upon a time. But it's like there had been a few things of like. To
be clear, Joey was a stupid kid who liked Bethesda's Fallout once upon a time. Anyway,
yes, New Vegas is still great. But I was, listen, we all have our vices, we all grow up, we all made our mistakes when we were younger. And I'm pretty sure in our Final Fantasy VII playthrough, I'm pretty sure I talked about Fallout 3 during it. And if I heard that, I would probably just evaporate. I would just hold up the peace sign and just disappear. There's a fancy.
Oh, come on! There's some good things about that game, Joey. Don't be too hard on yourself.
What, 3 or
3? Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's some good things about it, but I guarantee you the things I was saying would make me want to shoot myself. But regardless. It's like, after New Vegas was out for a while, there had been a few like hoaxes online where it's like, oh man, it's like a date's released. And it's like there's a website, and it's like, oh, it's what's going to happen? And then the countdown appears, and then a meme video pops up, and it's like that went on for a while, and like Bethesda wouldn't comment on anything at all, and then it's just kind of out of the blue. Once again, that happens. So it's like, wait a minute, there's credibility to it this time. There's trademarks and stuff, and then. They had the website, and I was a stupid person that I remember I actually stayed up, like, because I think it would ended up being like 5 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
Like, I stayed up, like, on the website, and then, of course, like, the trailer drops, and it's like, oh my gosh. Wow.
They're finally doing it.
Finally doing it, but
no, like, there is, I mean, because on one hand, I've made jokes on the show before about like announcing a game the week that it comes out,
Yep.
and realistically, you need time
You
to
need
time to market to make people aware of the product.
Because there have been plenty of games that have been killed by the lack of marketing.
Yeah, like
there have been plenty of games. I can't tell you how many times like I ask about a game. It's like, hey, anybody heard anything about this? And it's like, it's out, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, you need time to be able to generate buzz, to get people interested, to run TV ads, to actually be able to to put up your big thing at the front of Walmart, to say that it exists and to buy it and what you need that type of stuff. You need your GameStop pre-order promotions.
Sonic and the Secret Rings cut out in the GameStop window.
You need the printout of Sonic Colors box art hanging over the light fixture in your dorm bathroom. That I sent to you years ago.
Yes.
I still don't know I never found out the mystery behind that. One day in college, I walked into the bathroom in my dorm, and I don't even think it was like the real one, like pulled out of a Wii box.
Yeah.
I'm fairly certain it was printed on like the length that you would need. It was cut the way that you would if you were doing a custom DVD cover. Someone had printed out the cover for Sonic Colors and folded it and left it above the light fixture in the bathroom of my dorm. That mystery remained unsolved. And then it was there for like a couple days, and then it was gone. But anyway, you need time, obviously, to actually be able to push stuff. You can't do shadow drops. Only work for release dates, not for the game itself. Like you need to have the buzz ahead of time. Then maybe you can shadow drop it. So I imagine even when they do wind up revealing it, it'll probably be a month or two run up because you'll need that time.
That being said, can you imagine it's statistically it's bound to happen one day, but like an actual big name AAA game, just like what if Call of Duty, there was a trailer for Call of Duty and at the end it said and it's in stores now. It's like, what?
You'd never be able to do that because you'd have to ship them, but you could do in stores 1 week from now.
Yeah.
And honestly, as much we were talking crap about Activision Blizzard a second ago. Call of Duty is about the only game you could do that with.
That's what I was saying. Is you'd have to do it. It would have to be a huge name game.
And honestly, because at this point they're waiting very late to announce the new one because I think they're very concerned about making sure this new Warzone ecosystem they've created continues to perform.
Yep.
So I think they're going to push the reveals later whenever they can because they want to keep the attention on this current ecosystem, and they got to figure out how to integrate them, which means we could see a future with Call of Duty specifically where they do announce games they announce the new single player campaign, a month or two before release, and also and this will be the new multiplayer suite and the new kits being added to Warzone or whatever. Mm-hmm. I don't know what they're going to do about that whole ecosystem because I feel like that feels like that's unsustainable to me, but I also don't really care that much.
No, actually the first AAA thing that's going to do that is going to be FIFA, and it's just going to be because they forgot to market it. It's just
forgot. That would be fantastic, actually. That would be great if there was an interview of why'd you guys shadow drop it? We forgot.
We forgot.
Yeah, the folks at EA, they forgot to pay the marketing department. They all walked out. None of us noticed.
I mean, it's come on, guys. It's literally the same game, just with updated teams. So it's can you blame us?
That was my yawn. That's how I feel about FIFA.
I bought a FIFA one time for $5 because I got bullied into buying it for $5, and then we all made custom characters and played one match and never touched it again.
Imagine how good their sales would be if they sold the game once every 5 years, and it cost $80 because game prices are sliding towards $70 anyway. You get one Madden. It covers 2021 through 2025, right? And you pay $10 each year to update the roster if you want to. You pay $80 up front. I was talking with my brother about, he hasn't touched... I mean, he's a football fan. I like football well enough. He hasn't bought a Madden game in, 12 years because it's insane. He was like, if that happened, I would consider buying one.
Yeah.
How I don't know, maybe the numbers wouldn't ultimately work out because there are the dedicated people who are gonna shill their 60 to 70 every year anyway.
That's the problem is that's not 60 a year, and that's the thing is we've talked about. It's it's the same thing as the Call of Duty crowd.
But if you also throw loot boxes into the mix, and you only do it not for every decade, but for every 4 or 5 years or whatever, would it offset with the number of people who are willing to come over and get it at all who just wouldn't touch it anymore? These would be difficult numbers to crunch.
These are the thing is, I feel like even in. I feel like that marketing strategy wouldn't even be enough to get too many new people in. They'd already have to be pretty on the fence about sports games, I think. You would have to also implement improvements to the games.
Yes.
You would have to...
But an argument could be made that since they're not spending time and money marketing a new game every year, you could spend more money making the games good, but EA doesn't want to do that.
I was going to say...
There's no benefit
I was going to say you could do that, but it's EA, it's not going to happen.
There's no actual incentive to do that, really.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And because the thing is, even if they would get a few new numbers, it's like you'd have to get like 5 new players per year to offset the $60 that one person is giving them, you know?
Yeah, a lot. You have to pull in a lot of new people. So back to FF16, some interesting stories that are coming out about this. I think I mentioned this to you, Joey, but I don't know if you saw it. They basically, when he was talking about the progression on the game, how development's coming along, he said it's coming along very well, but we don't want to show it right now. We'll show it all the stuff I just talked about a second ago. He said the game's main scenario writing has been completed, and the team is working its way through the final English voice recording phase. Development is going well, but it's difficult because they want to maintain high quality. They don't want to drip beat information, I'm skimming this article, but he said the English voice recording is in the final stages, right, was what he said at the time. The script is done and the English recording is in the final stages. I went, wow, that's fast. They've already finished Japanese recording?
And it's like, maybe not.
No, they filmed in English first.
Interesting.
He said it in an interview just the other day that basically for this game specifically, they decided they were going to do all of the recording in English first and do facial capture for the English version of the game and motion capture. So all the mocap in the game and facial capture in the game is going to be from the English actors.
Oh, like British English.
British English, yes, specific.
Okay. Oh, sick. Yeah. We're getting another Xenoblade.
Another Xenoblade, yeah. So hopefully we're not going to hear too many people we recognize. Then there'll be that one NPC who's just Shulk. No,
Liam O'Brien is just going to show up as a jobber anyway.
Liam will just be there.
He'll be putting on a very bad British accent.
But anyway, Yuri Lowenthal will be a goblin that screams, and you'll be able to identify him.
He'll be screaming in a British accent.
Yeah, when you kill the goblin, his death row scream will be Yuri Lowenthal and Steve Blum as descendants. But anyway, so they said that we are doing the voice recording in English first, right? Which I think is pretty interesting. So I'm reading from the Nova Crystallis website here, which is a news site I go to for Square Enix stuff sometimes. Their brand name of Nova Crystallis has more staying power than the actual Fabula Nova Crystallis brand name. Anyway, notes the English recording is being approached first with a focus on British English. The team is recording facial movements because they can't possibly hand animate every version of a scene. They're instead doing full facial motion capture and adding voices on top of that. So there is one of the reasons why the English version is ahead of ours. We're going to start the Japanese version soon. So this leaves me a lot to think about. That last bit was a quote. That's one reason why the English version is ahead of ours. We're going to start the Japanese version soon. So this leaves me with a lot to think about. I don't think this is... I haven't read like a direct transcript of what he said. I've only seen a couple of people reporting on it. I can't tell if this means they've done mocap in English as well, or if they've done mocap with the Japanese actors first. It would be ridiculous if they had the Japanese actors come in mocap every scene and then had the English actors voice act them. So I assume that the English scene, like the game isn't the cutscenes aren't mocap, they're hand animated, which is also a possibility. Just check and make sure. This article doesn't say anything specifically. I feel like I read something about English motion capture, but I could be wrong. I didn't go and look it up beforehand of recording this.
With it having English first and it probably being the focus being like English voice, this leads me to believe that it's going to be focused on English voices. Like they're going to have it in every other language, but this will probably be the preferred. Is my guess.
That was the joke people were making about I prefer the original Japanese FF16.
I was going to say this tickles me funny because I think about hardcore subtitle elitists.
This is already getting Joey. So there are already people who say Final Fantasy XVI looks boring. Okay. It looks too generic, Joey.
From the one trailer we've got.
From the one trailer,
cinematic trailer we got.
It's boring and generic, and they're trying too hard to westernize.
Okay.
and they're chasing after trends and trying to be like Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I thought it was weird when they were running around with a bunch of, Colt revolvers and cowboy hats and burgers, but,
And Joey, this just confirms my feelings that Final Fantasy XVI isn't going to be for me, because they're recording it in English first. They're just trying to appeal to the Western fan base, and they're abandoning what's important about Final Fantasy, Joey. When the fact of the matter is, the Japanese audiences are significantly more comfortable watching dubbed American or European works than Americans are with watching dubbed Japanese works. Mm-hmm. And when your American voice acting team, because also the other thing, in Japan, they don't give a crap about lip sync, which is why in anime, half the time the lips don't have anything to do with what people are saying, whereas in the States, that is much more expected. In fact, you can watch American dubs of anime and compare them to the Japanese dubs, and the American dub will be trying harder to match the lip flaps.
Absolutely.
Now, that's not always I don't think that's necessary, but especially in a large-scale video game that you're selling to a lot of normies who aren't anime fans, they expect the facial animation and lip flaps and whatnot to match with what's being said. And while, for example, games like Final Fantasy XV and Final Fantasy VII Remake, they have a lot of the automated, BioWare and Bethesda lip flaps for the minor cutscenes, which I don't know if you've seen any footage of this, but in Intergrade, one of the upgrades they didn't market, but it seems to be the case, is they've improved the programming on that AI lip flap stuff. People are actually showing scenes not just from the Yuffie DLC, but from the base game where it is the automated lip flaps, and the generic body animations are the same, but the lip flaps are closer to the audio files. Okay. So it seems like they may have actually improved that a bit for the PS5 version. So we can probably see more improvements to that in later entries in Remake. But anyway.
And you said earlier in one of the interviews that he had commented that specifically, okay, the picture is becoming clearer now, because you had mentioned specifically that he had said, in regards to releasing the trailer too early, he said,
we know that we'll get comments from overseas fans.
Overseas, so it seems like he's, compared to some of the other people at Square, it seems actually paying pretty heavy attention to the overseas audience.
Well, I don't know his exact literacy, but I'm fairly certain Naoki Yoshida speaks English fairly well. He prefers to conduct interviews in Japanese,
of course.
But I have watched interviews that he's done where he clearly understands what's being asked by English-speaking interviewers, and the Japanese translation is probably more just a formality to make sure you got the details. There's a specific one with the Easy Allies guys where one of them asks about so in recent years WoW has implemented. There's been a big push for WoW Classic to bring back the original version of the game, and that's been very successful for Blizzard. And Naoki goes, yes. And then he just nods. And then the guy says, it's been 9 years or however long since the original launch of Final Fantasy XIV. And then Yoshida just goes, and leans back and starts laughing, to be clear. Yes. And as the question goes on, is there any chance of releasing a classic 1.0 version? And it's cool, the Easy Allies guy's laughing as well. He's asking this because he wants this reaction. And Yoshida's just legitimately hard laughing, and then he does wait through the Japanese translation of the question, and then he goes nightmare. But there's just stuff like that where it seems like he, and also you can see a lot during, obviously a lot of a big thing in Japanese education, you go to college, is you usually get at least competent English reading, even if you're not good at speaking it. But there's other clips of him just of reading chat during streams just to see what people are talking about, right? During Q&As, he'll be looking over at the stream of the chat and reading and looking at the chat on the stream and reading the comments.
Well, it's I know Square is a big company, so it's not really applicable. But I think back to I don't even know the man that you were telling me about in an interview, them talking about classic Final Fantasy pixel games where they get the quote upgraded HD versions that look crap.
Yeah.
And he's asking them, it's talking about, a lot of Western audiences, don't like it. And him being confused, oh wait, people in the West didn't like this.
Yeah, that was to be fair, that was Yoshinori Kitase, who was director of Final Fantasy VII Original, producer of the remake, a bunch. He's worked on a ton of stuff, obviously. And he is one of the best ones, at least, but he doesn't seem to hear about it outside a lot of the time. But whenever he does interviews with Western outlets and they tell him stuff, he's like, I didn't know that. Let me go deal with that immediately.
Yeah, but it's just the whole thing about the not having that knowledge of it.
Yeah.
It's like,
he did an interview with Polygon a number of years ago as 13. The whole 13 trilogy was kind of wrapping up.
Yeah.
And basically talking about what do American audiences prefer, what do international audiences prefer when it comes to localization of our games, right? And where I read this, just it really he was asking the interviewer questions about stuff. He was like, I want you to tell me this stuff about the American audience. And then like this led to, he did like this whole Q&A thing with Polygon readers, answering questions about the localization process and asking questions. He's saying, hey, I want feedback on this aspect and that aspect. And then he did a follow-up article where he like wrote a whole thing about like, this is what we're thinking in response to what you guys have said. We're very interested and we're keen to implement some of this feedback going forward. And you can see a little bit of it like in the comparison between the scripts for the 13 games and the 15 games, and you can definitely see it in the localization for 7 Remake, which is easily the best localization job they've done since 12, in my personal opinion at least, in terms of the raw script. Yes. Like the performances and stuff in the 13 series were good, but anyway, that interview was also great because Yoshinori Kitase is that guy. Whatever his name is, Toriyama, the 10-2 guy, yes. and Lightning's armpits man. He gave a response to that as well, which was like, it was the insanest response I've ever seen to any. I could probably I may have read this to you a while ago, but
I'm not sure.
I'm gonna pull it up because it's great. Hold on.
No, I mentioned that I went to visit some friends out of town the other day, and one of those was good old Price. And I was like, I want to check out his apartment, and I drive on over there, and he's playing FF10, and he's like, yeah, I had that itch again.
I remember when he finished that, and he was like, that was really, really good. I can't wait to start 10-2. And I was like, I'm glad you enjoyed it, but just like FYI. 10-2 is a little bit different. Just be prepared for this shit. And he was like, cool. And then like a day or two later, he was like, what the hell was that? Like I think he quit like after watching the opening cutscene. I'm trying to find this article. Hold on a second. I'm fairly certain it was Polygon. Maybe I'm mistaken.
Yeah, I watched him play a little bit of the game. I don't know how I could have forgotten, but I completely forgot that a lot of that game was like noir-esque monologue in Tidus's head.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of it like that. Oh, it was US Gamer, not Polygon. My mistake. Okay, my bad. Let's see, here we go. So, alright, so this is Kitase's response. I read through the article as well as the comments from readers and fans. Since we were given such a great opportunity, I'd like to share my thoughts with all of you. There are 2 points that I found particularly interesting. First, I'm surprised that you, the readers, know the Square Enix games very well, perhaps even more than we do. Your analysis, which included not only information on the localization quality, but specific names of people who worked on the translation, was extremely valuable. Sometimes we get fixated on sales and review scores and for other internal titles, so the feedback was especially helpful. Nonetheless, I was reminded once again that one of the best ways to improve quality is to reflect on the past success within the company. I'm also very glad to hear that the overall localization quality of our titles has generally improved. The second point I thought was interesting is that we don't have to be completely accurate to the original Japanese. As long as the overall direction does not diverge, it's better to make the necessary adjustments in order to have the English sound natural. This also came up in my earlier conversations with Jeremy, the guy who was doing the interview with, which, again, you can feel that in 15 and a little bit starting to happen, and especially in 7 Remake, where like the literal dialogue is often completely different from the Japanese, just as long as it's still getting across what's happening. And that game has a great script in English, I think. I actually had a discussion with the localization team at Square Enix Tokyo Studio, and they too have 2 different ways about going about this. One is to translate the original Japanese script as closely as possible and raise the quality of the English translation while doing so. The other is to make bold modifications as needed along the way to get as the gist of it matches up. The method varies depending on the characteristics of the original title and the timing of the translation team, timing in which the translation team was formed. However, in the case of the 13 series, it would lean towards the former approach of very literal and then up the quality afterwards. Mm-hmm. Although the latter is more challenging, we would like to do our best to incorporate it into our development in the future upon receiving this feedback. Thank you to the readers and fans for providing honest feedback that we couldn't have received elsewhere. Lastly, I'd like to thank US Gamer for providing us with this opportunity. Thank you, Yoshinori Kitase, producer of Lightning Returns, because that was what was happening at this particular time, right? Yeah. Here comes Motomu Toriyama, director, Lightning Returns. Hello, this is Toriyama from Square Enix. I'm very thankful that there was a serious and thoughtful discussion about the localization of Final Fantasy, and that there were many valuable comments that were posted on the article. With the increasing quality of graphics, we've always encountered a great challenge in the 13 series to accurately depict the story of people living in a never-before-seen fantasy world. This is because with each installment, the worlds would become more and more unique. It even came to the point where I wished that I could control these unique characters through paradigm shift. Moving forward, we will think about the methods of crafting expressions and characters that can be easier to understand and relatable at the same time. We will also make an effort to retain the edgy and fresh appeal throughout the localization process, and will continue to take on the challenge to create a brand new Final Fantasy world. We appreciate your continued support. Thank you, Toriyama, director. What was that second paragraph? What's going on here? We're talking about localization. With the increasing quality of graphics, we've always encountered a great challenge in the 13 series to accurately depict the story of people living in a never-before-seen fantasy world. It is because with each installment, the worlds would become more and more unique. It even came to the point where I wish that I could control these unique characters through paradigm shift. If he said, first of all, it's off top. Pretty good. He's basically just saying, our graphics are getting so good that our worlds look amazing. And it is hard to make the graphics look so good, but they look so good that if he had said that I wish that I could live in that world myself, it would have made some degree of sense. But he says, the graphics got so good that I wish that I could use the gameplay mechanics to interact with the game that we had made.
It's just vomiting words on screen.
So Tetsuya Nomura's interviews are sometimes a bit funky, and I'm like, maybe this reads better in Japanese. Sometimes Toriyama is like intelligible in interviews, and sometimes it's this, and I have no idea what he's talking about.
This is him not listening or paying any attention.
Exactly.
And then just being like giving his best guess as to what people are wanting to hear from him.
Exactly. It's like Kitase gives this really considered, like, I've read all your feedback. I've taken it into serious consideration. I'm going to take this to the higher ups. Even though it's going to be hard, we are going to do our absolute best to implement this what you guys want, even though we know this is harder. And Toriyama is like, the graphics are very good.
Very good.
The gameplay is very good.
I wish I could. The graphics are so good. I wish I could use gameplay to do stuff in the world of my Final Fantasy.
Anyway, I think about that a lot, so I went over there. Anyway, I was talking about the localization process on other stuff. One issue that you still encounter even with 7, which I think has a really good script, and with and a little bit a lot with 15. 15 and 7 both did mocap in Japanese first, right? So while obviously both games, especially 7 in all of its core cutscenes, redid the facial animation to match the new characters, and there were minor animation tweaks to adjust the English script, they are in some instances bound to the movement and acting of the Japanese version, which is, I don't know about you, Joey. I consume a lot of Japanese media.
Yes.
So a lot of this stuff does not bother me very much.
Because we're so used to it. You get used to it at some point.
Yeah, and like the localization folks on 7 did a really good job of working around a lot of those and making them feel natural and making them feel like important parts of the characterization. So, it all worked out pretty well. Like there's a bit in that little new scene at the ending of Intergrade where they're hitchhiking and then they get in the truck. Where that may have sounded like a spoiler for Final Fantasy VII stuff. Let me explain. There's a new ending added to Intergrade, a new post-credit scene where the crew is leaving Midgar after the ending of the events and they're just hitchhiking and hanging out. Nothing significant happens. I realized that saying they hitchhike and get in the back of a truck can trigger some Final Fantasy VII fans, because that can refer to another thing, so I had to be careful. Anyway, I watched the Japanese version of that scene, and like in the English, when they're in the back, because obviously the men are being polite and riding in the back with the chocobos, and the girls are up front, and there's the bit where one of the chocobos is bothering Barrett, and he goes up to the window and goes, "What is it with these damn birds?" Right?
Yeah.
In the Japanese, I don't know what he says. He just screams one word. Like, his facial animation is just, ah, like his lips are just open for one long thing. Because I didn't listen to it in Japanese, but I watched a video that had it in the background that was clearly the Japanese lip sync.
Yes.
Where he just opens his mouth and says one long thing. And so it's like, clearly they were willing to let them, communicate something that's going to make sense for the characters to say, and it, functions in English. You don't have to Sailor Moon your way through it.
I just had another thought about them doing the English mocap first and English voices first.
Mm-hmm.
imagine we're gonna have a Japanese game where you don't constantly have
There's probably there's gonna be very few anyway, probably anime grunts in this game. It's gonna be wild, dude.
I know, because even FF7 remake was great, but you still suffered from that.
Yeah, me personally, I got over it after the first couple of.
I did too.
Honestly, the worst part in the entire thing is the very beginning on the train station, where there's no dialogue as the two guards get taken out, and it's just get down here, Merc. It's just like 2 minutes of grunts. After that, it's never as bad. But yeah, no, like it's probably gonna have very little of that, and I wouldn't be surprised. I'm sure some people are gonna cry foul about a mere westernization, but I'm willing to bet that Naoki Yoshida is and the other people involved in the team, the director and everybody else involved. There's people who are looking at this and going, one of the bottlenecks on our sales is that there are certain people out there who, when they hear the anime grunts, it just is a huge turnoff. They can't get them, we are doing the best that we can to improve our localizations, but the fact of the matter is that also the other reason that I was going to get to in a second is think about how much more difficult it is for the Japanese development team to create lip sync for the English dub in a language that they don't speak. Mm-hmm. Where you have to use, I imagine, a ton of reference and just kind of figure out phonetically. I animate lips for a living, so I know that when these sounds come out of the mouth, that's how the mouth moves, right? Whereas, if you just do the facial capture in English and then you dub it in Japanese later, they'll probably do facial capture again anyway for the Japanese version if they're going this far at this point. But I bet they didn't do facial capture for the English version of Final Fantasy VII. At least I doubt it. I don't know for sure. But I imagine that if they did, it would have had the LA Noire problem, and maybe they won't be able to do the Japanese facial capture on this either. Because for those who don't know, LA Noire, bleeding edge technology to bleeding edge. They spent $1 bajillion on a super sophisticated facial capture rig that was obsolete 3 years later, after the game came out at least. Because nowadays, you can have a guy in a mocap suit and have a camera rig on his head and the dots on the face, and it can do facial capture as well as motion capture simultaneously, right? Back then, that wasn't possible. So the way that LA Noire was put together, because they really wanted to have this sophisticated facial capture, because it was basically face scan. It wasn't just facial capture mapped onto the digital model. It was the actor's face was in the game. And it was incredible technology. I really like how LA Noire
still
works.
Looks good.
The problem with how LA Noire worked was that it involved the actor. It's the way 3D photo scanning of something works, where you have to take a photo from a billion different angles, right? But in order to film a long performance or a character giving a monologue, you have to just have a billion cameras set up in a circular formation around them, all filming simultaneously. And the actor can't move their head very much, right? So the problem with LA Noire was that every single performance in the entire game was performed by a person sitting in a chair and looking dead forward at their targeted point, right? So all of the body animation that was added in later for either gesticulation or a character moving through space did not necessarily match with the eye. Especially the main problem was the eye line.
Yes.
Because every single character is always looking directly forward. No one ever looks out the corner of their eye at somebody else. If they're looking at another character, they always turn their head to look at them. And it works well enough most of the time, but there's bits where you really, really notice that the characters are almost always at least looking forward, because they couldn't be given specific direction of look left, because we know that we'll have your character turn their head left at this point, because the scene hasn't been staged yet, probably. So with that same problem in mind, I doubt that they would be able to do facial capture for the Japanese for more than one language, because if you're having one team motion capture and facial capture, after that, if you do facial capture, it's not going to match the motion capture performance and the relative positions of the actors and stuff. So the Japanese version will probably have to be hand animated, but I'm willing to bet that takes them a fourth of the amount of time that it takes to do an English lip sync version, if only because they can have somebody in the studio quickly take a selfie of themselves saying the line and then use that as photo reference.
Yeah.
And they speak the language natively and everything else. So it's not. I imagine it's not just because they're trying to westernize. I bet it literally makes their production pipeline easier The only thing that probably makes it more difficult is maybe the actual script process, because they have to do it in a different order than they normally do. But again, I imagine that because Japanese audiences have, I shouldn't say lower standards, but they just don't care as much because the fact of the matter is that people who don't live in English-speaking parts of the world are much more used to watching dubbed foreign films, because Americans, they don't want to watch that. Why didn't Joker win Best Picture instead of some damn Chinese parasite that no one's ever heard of?
No one's ever heard of it. I don't have time to listen. If I'm reading, I can't also be watching. So.
It's true.
I'm not a damn chameleon. I can't have one eye looking down and one eye looking up. I go in just briefly back to Japanese grunts. I actually wonder if it's going to be. There won't really be complaints, I'm sure, but I wonder if if everything we're saying is actually how it's going to be, and there's not really Japanese grunts. If the Japanese audience playing the game, because even dubbing it over, they're probably not going to be adding grunts. I wonder if there's going to be something's off, something's missing.
They'll probably add in some grunts here and there, because there will be a Japanese voice director, and they'll be retranslating the script. And a lot of stuff that is the problem is that you'll have a character grunt to communicate something that in an English performance we would just expect to be a facial or body expression, because it's kind of a holdover from anime having limited production budgets, so you don't have as much movement. Obviously there is just also grunting and some non-verbal, non-formal communication in verbal Japanese conversations just in general, but a lot of it in video games and anime is a holdover from I need Speed Racer to be able to communicate how he's feeling without moving his lips, because I don't have any animation budget anymore.
They should have just looked to the west with Clutch Cargo and just done it that way.
Oh, they absolutely should have done the filmed lips slapped into the still image. Fantastic, dude. They absolutely should have taken that on. Hey, that really was. They were pioneers. They were basically doing facial capture.
Exactly. That's what I keep saying about Clutch Cargo, my favorite anime.
They should reboot it, and they should make a big deal out of how you use facial capture. But specifically, since there is a camera recording all the performances, they'll use facial capture, but the video recorded of the lips will be in the episodes, photoshopped onto the characters.
It's content, baby.
But anyway, I think this is an interesting decision that. Because again, like I said, I don't really mind, working through, Japanese stuff that has to deal with, being localized into English or whatever. But with this game especially, it seems like they're wanting to. It's an action game. They're going to wait and hold off on the marketing a little bit. It seems like it's probably going to be M-rated. It seems like they're really wanting to get a big Western influx, which is reasonable, because I've talked about previously how even though FF15 was a little bit half-baked, it sold quite well, and it got a lot of people who otherwise hadn't touched Final Fantasy games to give the series a shot.
I have personally met folks since then that 15's the only game they played, and they're like, yeah, it was great, I loved it.
And a lot of those people didn't even finish it. They just had fun with the open world and hanging out with the bros, and they didn't get to the hallway in the 13th chapter, which was really funny, because people called Final Fantasy 13 Final Hallway 13, and then the hallway sequence of 15 was in chapter 13. It was borderline experimental. It's almost too conceptual to follow, but I love it. But a lot of people didn't even finish it, but they just have fond memories of playing and this time that they did spend with it. And a lot of people, I think some of your friends you've told me about and people you've met, have gone back to some of the earlier entries because the Zodiac Age remaster came out, the 10 remaster came out, obviously 7 remake and 7 and 8 getting pushed onto getting modern releases pushed out as well. But there are also, I imagine, a huge chunk of fans who maybe they touched 7 Remake, but they might not have gone back to the other stuff. Maybe they didn't even touch 7 Remake, for whom 16 is probably going to get a lot of people who played 15 and liked it but haven't touched one in the last 6 years at this point. May get some of these people, and may hold them a little bit better than 15 did, especially if it's of an even higher quality, which, again, as someone who likes 15, that's a low bar to clear.
Yes.
So, I don't know, I think this is probably a smart maneuver on their part. And beyond just being smart, it's just really interesting to me that they did it at all, because I can't really think of many instances of something like this happening.
Yeah. No, it's virtually unheard of.
Yeah, this could be pretty neat. But yeah, I like that it's also, we're going to have a Xenoblade situation on our hands again, probably.
Yes.
They were going to have hopefully some actual British accents, and it's not just going to be flooded with recognizable actors.
It's funny because I see people occasionally talk about Xenoblade. It's like, oh, I can't do it because it's it's British voice acting, and it's like it's good.
That's the appeal, dude.
Exactly. It's like, yeah, it's a little weird because you're not used to it, but just
get over it.
Yeah, spend a few hours at it, and it's like, yeah, no, it's fine.
Pretend they're pirates until you get over it. Pretend you're playing a Skies of Arcadia remake that Sega will never make. Oh, Sega. It all comes back to them eventually.
It all comes back to Sega.
But yeah, I think that's a really interesting situation with 16. There's been all that news recently, and I didn't feel like doing a full video about it, but I did want to talk about that with you. And literally that like there was a few, they were like recording the English and it's already done. I was like, that's weird that they're doing that already. And they didn't say we finished the Japanese.
Yep.
So I was like, are they recording them simultaneously and English is going faster? What's going on here? And then they're prioritizing the motion capture on this end, and it's dude, it's real interesting stuff.
I'm looking forward to hearing more about, as time goes on, more about the production of this.
Yeah, because I'm sure we'll hear plenty about the behind the scenes after it comes out. Mm-hmm. Like the fact that they let them in to do the no-clip documentary on 14 at all, that they allowed that to be produced, tells me that once 16 is out, we will know all of the dirty details, unless something went really bad behind the scenes, but they probably didn't. It seems like it's working more or less, so hopefully that won't be the case. But I feel like that's all kind of the news docket stuff that I wanted to talk about, other than, of course...
The most important thing on the docket, of course.
The most important thing on the docket, which was, oh boy, you guys, Nintendo finally updated. They added some more SNES games to their online service.
Yes, your favorite, my favorite.
Playmates.
Jelly Boy.
And Bomboozle.
My favorites. These are the games of many of childhood, you know?
Mm-hmm. Especially Claymates, which is, I believe, a European exclusive release back in the day. I'm glad that it's finally going to be able to reach a larger audience.
I was going to say, that's the thing, is it's like, there were so many people that, I know, back from when I was a kid, I had all these friends that were they were paying, $60, $80, $90, $100 trying to get a, import of the game. Finally being able to experience it natively.
And who wants to play the mysterious Muramasa Muramasa Castle, or Earthbound Beginnings, or Mario 3D, Mario RPG, Legend of the Seven Stars, or who wants to play these types of games?
Who cares about them?
Who cares about them? Who wants to play Donkey Kong Jr. Math?
Golf? I mean, come on, dude. That's just like a real life thing.
Golf was on the Switch.
It was.
Because there was a cameo. It was installed on every Switch with a secret bootable function, and then they removed it, and it's not on the online service.
What are they doing? It was already there. It was already there.
It came preloaded on every single Nintendo Switch.
I completely forgot. Oh my god, you're correct.
I'm willing to bet the data is still on your Nintendo Switch, and you just can't get to it.
I'm sure. It's like, I mean, they probably didn't physically remove it out of there. Oh my gosh. Ugh. Whatever that crap is called, the NES Online, whatever, continues to be the most. I'll check it out and play 5 minutes of it.
It continues to be. Nintendo was doing it early when they weren't sure if the Switch was going to be a big success. They made a bunch of grand plans to try and bring people to the service. Then the Switch did well. People wanted to play Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and Splatoon, so they stopped trying. Because there's no point in spending money to bolster the service when they structured it this way. They already have the subscription fees, and why spend the money
you don't even have to spend that much money.
Why spend the money to implement GameCube and N64 emulation when we're not charging for the individual games anymore? We built, because they did that to entice people to their subscription service. Because we're charging for this. We need to tempt people to it because people won't spend it. But now it's already doing well, so it's like, well, shit, we can't kill it and sell individual ROMs. So let's just trickle a few things out every now and then. What's the lowest effort possible things we can find that are already NES and SNES? So we don't have to build new emulation systems.
With these games, they're like, we don't even have to check to see if, like, all the publishers that made them is probably just long dead. It's like, we don't even have to bother with legal stuff.
We don't even have to clean up the ROM and make sure that it runs properly and there aren't any issues because no one's going to play it. We can just announce that we added some games. And a year from now, when we're pushing the Switch 2... Maybe not a year from now. It's gonna be more like 6 years from now, if the OLED is any indication. Whenever they're doing some kind of push for holiday season or whatever, we can say, get the Nintendo Switch Online service with over 200 games. Or it's not that many, I'm sure. Because all that matters is the number they can put in the commercial.
Yes, and as long as they have 5 noteworthy games, they can advertise the pictures of those 5 games when they say over 200 games like this.
I would love to do an edit of one of those commercials, and it's like where it's showing, Mario 3, Legend of Zelda, F-Zero or whatever, and you cut to Claymates. You cut to Claymates and Jelly Boy and Bomboozle. That'd be quality. That'd be primo stuff. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. I was talking with Joshua about, so Nintendo's doing fairly well for themselves right now. They're selling a lot of Nintendo Switches. People are excited about them again for the first time in years. If you actually look at their content output, it's the worst since, early N64 days.
Yeah.
Maybe launch GameCube. But even then, games came out fairly quickly. Joshua pointed out there is now a longer gap between Breath of the Wild and Breath of the Wild 2 than there was between Skyward Sword and Breath of the Wild.
Yep.
I believe he talked about that in the E3 episode. And it's you cast that net farther afield, and it's no new Donkey Kong game since Wii U, no new Pikmin game since, there wasn't a new Pikmin game, was there? I'm not crazy.
They announced one.
They announced one, but it's not out. Yeah. They've got a couple new Metroid games out, at least, I guess. But it's all this, and then, Star Fox is dead again. After they put out one Star Fox game, there won't be another Star Fox game for another 6 years until they figure out a gimmick with which to ruin it. Their actual the actual first party output on the Switch compared to the explosion of creative weirdo stuff on the N64, GameCube, and Wii and even the Wii U early on. Because the Wii U, they were desperate to sell units, so they kept just throwing banger after banger at the wall to try and get sales up. We were talking about before E3, surely they will announce Mario Kart 9 soon because they gotta.
But no.
But they don't. Why would they? Why would they spend the money to make a video game?
It's bizarre how well they're doing considering all this. Because, there was 1 or 2 big things, but there just has been a steady trickle of nothing. I mean,
there's been a steady trickle of a lot of third-party games that are high quality that you can play on the go instead of on your PC.
Well, yes.
And that's about it. Not until the Stream Deck comes out, baby. They'll totally dominate the market. I was having some arguments with Joshua about how well that's going to do, because on one hand, it's I play my Switch a lot, but there's games I can't get on my Switch, maybe I'll get this. But on the other hand, a lot, PC gamers, they're not going to buy this thing.
No.
They're not going to spend the money on it, and a lot of people who aren't, hardcore enough to not, because, the Steam Deck is, at the exact position of, I'm hardcore enough to want a PC, and to know how good PCs are, but not want to spend the money on a PC. It's that demo almost exclusively.
Yes.
And I think that's a decently sized demo, but I don't know if it's enough for Steam to
have
a successful product launch.
In that demo, it's also, you have to add in, plus I like playing games on handheld.
Yes.
The whole reason, it's I might be looking into it more, but it's years ago I learned I don't like playing games on handheld.
Well, it does have...
Since original DS, even 3DS.
To be clear, it does have a docked mode.
Does it?
So, yes, it does have a dock. It does have a dock, and you can pipe it to a TV. Okay. So
that's a little bit better.
So if they also sell, or it's compatible with wireless keyboards and mice, then it could essentially be a super cheap gaming PC. People could use it that way.
Do we have the specs yet? I mean, I know specs are going around, but it's
I believe they put out the specs, and they published, their PR department recently published a lie, which was that we have yet to find a game that the Steam Deck can't handle, which is a bold-faced lie.
Absolutely.
But you know what? I appreciate the gumption.
Maybe you can install mods on it, and they have all of the... Because every big game has an ultra low res
Yeah,
mod.
an ultra low specs mod.
My favorite is one for Skyrim that makes it look like first person RuneScape.
Yeah, maybe that's how they cheated it. Yeah, we plugged Red Dead into this thing, but we secretly used like the PS1 mod that makes it look like that. That'd be a way to get away with it. That would be a clever solution. And those boys at Steam are nothing if not clever.
Exactly, and you're not technically lying.
Anyway, no, I believe they did publish the specs, and like they were decent. You're not going to be running Cyberpunk at max settings or whatever, but it's like, you know, they were decent. The main thing is like a lot of the games that you would want to play on PC that you can't play on a console are things that it's specifically not on console because you need mouse and keyboard. Like you can't play your grand strategy games on console for the most part.
Yeah.
You can't play your like SimCity and like, you know, cities like rather because SimCity doesn't exist anymore. City Skylines and Planet Coaster have console versions, but really you want to play those on PC, yes, right? With your mouse and keyboard. So it's like those types of things. If this deck is wireless mouse and keyboard compatible, you can set it up with your TV and it costs whatever, it's like $400, $500 or something. And
especially right now in the current climate of trying to build a PC.
Yeah, it's
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like actually, a few weeks ago, I actually with one of my friends, we left town at 4 a.m. because she wanted to. She was trying to get a graphics card because she's trying to build a PC, and it's like a place like an hour away is getting a few of these in.
Yeah,
and so we went and camped out with another like 200 people. Just to get it, and it's like it was still overpriced, but it's like but they got it, and it's like that's about the only way you can get it without, you know, paying scalper prices.
But yeah, it's like right now I haven't done direct head-to-head comparison, so I'm probably going to get this a little bit wrong. But I'm pretty sure that if you want to buy a pre-built PC of the approximate specs of what the Steam Deck offers, it's gonna be like $300 or $400 more expensive than this Steam Deck thing. So I think there is the potential for a market with that one, but it's really going to depend on the marketing.
Yes.
It's going to depend on who they can reach with this thing, and also exactly how powerful it really is. And again, really, if it is just like, okay, but you can only play it with like with a gamepad, then that really is going to reduce the utility, because like how many games are you really going to want to play that are gamepad oriented that you can't get on console, right?
Because the thing is, when we've seen it plenty of times before where a game that was specifically on PC that came to consoles, a lot of times depending on the type of game, it's like you can still play it on console, but you can feel the PC. Like
Halo Wars.
I'm thinking
that's what 343 that should be their next move. They should do another Halo Wars.
Halo Wars 3, baby, because they made a 2, didn't they?
Yeah, there was a 2.
That
was when they were floundering for exclusives for the Xbox One.
You're right. But I'm thinking like Darkest Dungeon. It's like I've played it on PS4, and it's like, yeah, you can, but it's like the entire time I'm playing, I'm like, this would be a lot faster if I could just mouse over and click.
If I could click on things, yeah, and keyboard commands and stuff, absolutely. But anyway, that's really all the news that we had to discuss for today. We kind of ran through a bunch of stuff there, and I don't think either of us have been up to anything terribly interesting that isn't also like we can talk about on the show anyway.
Like I said, the only thing I've been up to is I've started Minecraft again, and I haven't played Minecraft in years. I don't really have much to say other than I keep coming across things I don't know about.
I also haven't played Minecraft in years.
I actually did have, no lie, the biggest jump scare in like 5 or 6 gaming years for me yesterday. So there are these things, I don't even know what they're called. I think they're called phantoms, but I don't even know for sure. There's these flying enemies that come out at night. And I had briefly seen one in the sky, but I didn't really know much about it, and I wasn't paying attention. I walked out of the community house that we had built, and I was going to get to the old base, and something like it hits me and makes a loud noise, and I like literally jump, and I'm literally yelling expletives because like my heart is pounding. I have not gotten jump scared that hard in a game in eons. It's Minecraft. It didn't matter. I did like 2 hearts of damage.
I assume you guys are playing on PlayStation?
Yes.
How much is Minecraft?
I don't know.
It's like $20 probably, $15?
Probably.
I could stand to play some Minecraft. Maybe I will purchase it on PlayStation and join you guys. That would be fun. But I really am looking forward to, as soon as Splitgate gets stabilized, you and I need to go to your friend's who are tangentially... I always hesitate to call some of your friends my friends because I'm only tangentially connected to them, but I imagine some of them would be insulted if I didn't call them my friends. So I'm like trying to be careful, but it's like actually...
Friend groups are a weird Venn diagram of sorts.
Exactly. That was what Google was going for with Google Plus and their circles system. They were ahead of their time.
They were ahead of their time. Here's the thing: is I understand what they were doing, but they were stupid for doing it.
Oh, absolutely.
But I get it. Because that's how it actually is.
I would love to go work at Google and just pitch nonsense and spend 5 years developing it, get paid a crap ton of money,
it'd be great.
Have it fail spectacularly, and then get promoted and develop something else. That would be the best job in the world.
I can come up with ideas. I'm
an idea man.
We were talking about that the other day. We were talking about easy YouTube and Twitch channels. Okay, the one that I'm pitching right now is the fail armies, those kinds of things. Okay. It's I want to find one that's got a few million views and go back to videos that came out 3 years ago and just record it and then get rid of their watermark.
Yeah, just repost it.
And repost it on mine.
Absolutely.
And
done.
We're done.
Easy peasy.
I had another one. I had another good one, okay? It's riding on the coattails of celebrities react, okay? Mm-hmm. Except it's just lies. We have okay, hear me out. So it's LeBron James reacts to Nicolas Cage's Pig trailer, right?
Yeah.
And it's just I have a clip of LeBron James from an interview just posted in the corner, just playing as the Pig trailer is playing, and then favorite, and subscribe, and then bam, that's it.
Well, that's basically the people have done that joke, but only cool people like Red Letter Media and Video Game Donkey. Well, because Video Game Donkey basically did that joke when he was doing his fake YouTuber stint, or I guess his real YouTuber stint, because he reacted to one of his own reaction videos.
Yes.
And during the whole thing, he just didn't. He just looked down at his phone. And then similarly, Red Letter Media loves doing that gag of a fake interviewing someone and cutting to unrelated footage of them. They did that really well with before The Force Awakens came out. They did a video where they were interviewing J.J. Abrams and they were just asking him to tell them the plot of the movie, basically. My favorite part, I quote it all the time, is just, "Come on, J.J., tell us what happens in the movie," because all these doing their press trail interviews for movies like that, and they're basically just asking, in the trailer we see this, can you tell us what that's about? And it's son of a bitch, watch the movie.
Yes.
All these interviews are useless, but they took clips that were exclusively of JJ in between answers of nodding or going or just a moment of him thinking and kind of holding his hand up trying to come up with an answer. They just kept cutting to those types of shots as they kept going there's a scene where a character reaches for a lightsaber and turns it on. Could it be Darth Vader's lightsaber? Come on, JJ, tell us what happens in the movie. And see,
the thing is that they're doing it for comedic effect, and they're
you want to do it for money. Yes.
Here's the thing: it has to farm clicks, and it has to be
absolutely
no effort.
You're describing the plot of an Always Sunny episode actually right now.
Good.
I would no, not a literal one. I'm saying this could be the episode.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
You could do a whole arc if Always Sunny did story arcs. You could do a whole arc of one of them going to work for Google. Actually, that would be a great Always Sunny spinoff. Frank goes to work for Google.
No, the thing is, it's funny. We were talking about these the other night, and it's haha, that's funny. But somewhere in the back of my head, I'm like,
it could be done.
It's it is low effort. I mean, Joey, I'm not doing a lot these days. Maybe.
You know me, Joey. I'm always looking for a new way to make a quick buck exploiting the YouTube system. Anyway, I think we are almost at 2 hours. We can wrap up under 2 hours if we stop almost right now.
I have been paying attention. We've got a minute and a half, basically.
Also, I think there may be a few extra seconds because the way that timeline is listed is also there's some dead air on the front of the recording.
But regardless, we got to end this quick.
We got to wrap up. So next episode of this, hopefully at least, Aiden and I will be talking about the Pure Blood Pretense, the first in Murky Blue Matters / her username on fanfiction.net is Murky Blue Matter, but she signs everything as Violet or Violet Matters. I don't know what she prefers to be called. Okay. Probably she made that username 15 years ago. She probably prefers to be called Violet. The first in Violet Matters, Rigel Black Harry Potter fanfiction series of Pure Blood Pretense. I don't know when that episode will be out. Maybe a week after this. I really don't know. We'll be back, I'm sure, with another episode of the research log at some
Another real
point.
banger of the research log where we talk about more nonsense.
And we'll probably try and stream Splitgate at some point in the near future when the servers are back up, because I really want to. I want to stream that anyway. We can hang out and talk about that a little bit because it's a cool video game.
Yes, it is. It is like in the front of my mind now. Of like I don't have very many games that it's like I don't have room in the rotation, but I'll make room to try this out.
And we will at some point get Joshua on Discord because he's at college now, and we will talk about the Adventures of Tintin: Secret of the Unicorn, and maybe a little bit about the crowd, but like some of the books too that it involved. Because you read Crab with Golden Claws.
Yes.
Maybe we'll read a couple of the other ones and we can chat about that stuff. Anyway, we gotta stop.
We gotta
We're
go.
at 2 hours.
We gotta go.
Bye!
Take it easy, everyone.